In this episode, we're going to be building the front frame for the Renault Dauphine project. So sit back, kick your feet up, and enjoy the process. So where we're going to start is the front end. As you can tell, it's very unstable. It's kind of just resting on the tires, which is not doing us any good. So what I'm going to do is cut back this sheet metal. We need to do it anyway to clearance for the bag. And I want to put a 2x1 beam from frame rail to frame rail, and that's going to give us something to build off of and put a little more structure in the front. So I wound up cutting back the sheet metal a little higher than the clip you guys just saw. And the reason I did that is because if you guys know Renault's, the front spare tire well is right here. There's a door in the front, and I want to keep everything looking and working as it did. I don't know what we'll do in here, if anything, but I just want the door there and I want it to remain working. So what we're gonna do is utilize these bumper mounts. So I'm gonna make 2 plates, 1 for each side, design them in CAD and cut them out on the plasma table, and then we'll run a bar, which is probably gonna be 1x1 now, just because of the limited space in between the bolts. We'll run that across, and that's gonna be our front bar. So let me design that and go from there. That's the 2 brackets cut out and cleaned up. I think I'm fighting a consumable problem with my torch, but we got the cuts we needed to make for today, so we're just going to move on and figure that out at a later date. Next up, we're gonna bolt the 2 brackets into place on the bumper mounts on the car. What's becoming very apparent to me is that I need some sort of hardware in stock in the shop because I'm constantly back and forth to the store. But with that being said, I'm on my way to the store to get some hardware. So we've got the new brackets in, utilizing the old bumper holes. Next, we'll need to take a measurement in between the 2 brackets and cut ourselves a piece of 2x1 tube to fit in there, tack it together, and then we can pull the whole thing back out and full weld it and then put it in and then start to build off of that. So that's the front support bar in. I just have it wedged into place. The gas on the welder ran out and I don't feel like changing the bottle tonight. So tomorrow we'll get the bottle changed and we'll get it all tacked together and pull it out. Get some paint behind the brackets, parts that we're not gonna be able to see again, and then we'll full weld it and put it back in, and then we could start building off of it and getting it tied into the plate. So we've got our support bar pulled out, tacked up, and now we need to full weld it. I also want to clean up the back sides of the brackets and paint them up because when I put this thing back in, I do not want to pull it out again. It is a pain and it's already whooped my ass today. When you pull all 4 bolts out, it kind of moves all the brackets, and the bracket's one and it sandwiches the frame rail. And if everything's not perfect, it kind of gets all wonky. So like I said, I don't want to pull it out again. So let me get this thing welded up and get it in paint. So this is what we got. We got the brackets all welded up over here. So I think I'm gonna do POR 15 on the back of it, which means I'm gonna prep it tonight, paint it, and then tomorrow we'll slip it back in. POR 15 applied. I just did the two ends because we're gonna be welding in this area, and we might even be welding in this area a little bit, but we'll just grind down what we need. So I'm gonna call it a night, and we'll get back at it tomorrow, get this thing bolted up. All right, so it's the next day, and we've got our bar all mounted in place for the last time. Such a pain in my ass. So next we're gonna bend up some bars. We gotta do a 90 to get from the bar to the plate, and we're gonna do 2 of those. So we'll bend them up. So we've got our 2 bent to a 90 degree. I did 1 on each side. Now we're gonna cut it to length and get it clamped in place. So they're cut to shape, and I just have them clamped in, just taking measurements, making sure everything's squared up. So we're gonna pull them off, clean them up, and we're just gonna buzz here and on the inside, there, on the other side, and then we'll get them tied into our bar that we made earlier, and then we can start building off of that, and that's gonna sure up that front end from all that wobbling it's been doing. So I've got some weld through primer drying on all the bars and the 2 new ones we're about to put in. So I'm gonna let that dry. I'm gonna go grab something to eat. When I get back, we'll weld it all in and see how that front end feels. So we got it all welded up, and as you can see, I already started grinding away at the welds because they were a bit ugly, but you could see no more shaky in the front end, and that's just the beginning. Those are just 2 bars to connect the chassis to the body, and there's gonna be a lot more of that. But that's really what I wanted to get done for this week. I'm gonna continue to just clean everything up and get some paint on it, but you don't really need to see that. So with that being said, we'll see you next week.